A 7-year-old girl ran into traffic and grabbed a stranger's motorcycle. "Please save my brother. They're going to kill him." 3 blocks away, her 9-year-old brother was being held hostage by cartel members. The police were negotiating, neighbors were filming, nobody was acting. The biker looked at the girl's terrified face and made a decision that would change everything. "Show me where. If this satisfies your heart, please like, comment, and follow." Victoria couldn't breathe. Her lungs were burning. Her legs were shaking. Tears blurred everything into smears of color and noise, but she kept running. Behind her, somewhere in that building, Tyler was screaming. Her brother, her best friend. The person who shared his snacks with her and let her win at video games and promised he would always protect her. Now he needed protecting. And nobody was doing anything. The police had arrived 20 minutes ago. They put up tape. They talked into radios. They told everyone to stay back, stay back. Her brother was in there with bad men, and they wanted everyone to stay back. Victoria had tried to tell them, tried to explain that Tyler was hurt, that she had seen blood, that the men had guns and were yelling about someone named Marco, and how Tyler had ruined everything. Nobody listened. She was 7. Just a kid. What did she know? So she ran. She didn't know where she was going, just away, away from the useless police, away from the neighbors with their phones out, recording like it was entertainment, away from the nightmare that her life had become in the last 2 hours. Then she saw the motorcycle. It was huge, black and chrome, gleaming in the afternoon sun. The man sitting on it was bigger, leather vest, tattoos crawling up his neck, a beard that made him look like a Viking. He was terrifying. He was also the first person all day who looked like he could actually do something. Victoria ran into traffic, horns blared, brakes screeched. The biker's head snapped toward her. "What the—" She grabbed his jacket before he could finish. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold on. "Please!" The word came out broken. "Please, save my brother." The man stared at her. This tiny girl with tangled hair and a tear-streaked face, standing in the middle of an intersection, like the world was ending. "Kid, what are you—" "They have him. The bad men. They have Tyler, and they're going to hurt him. The police won't do anything. Nobody will do anything. Please." She was sobbing now, her words dissolving into gasps. "Please, you have to help. You have to." The biker, Marcus Bear Sullivan, not that Victoria knew his name, looked at this desperate child. He should tell her to find a cop, should point her toward the flashing lights 3 blocks away, should stay out of whatever mess this was, but something in her eyes stopped him. Pure terror, pure desperation, pure faith that he, a complete stranger, could save her brother. Nobody had ever looked at Marcus like that, like he was a hero instead of a monster. "Where?" he asked. Victoria pointed. "The building with the blue door, 4th floor. 3 men, they have guns." "How do you know?" "I was there, with Tyler. We were walking home from school and they grabbed us, said Tyler saw something he wasn't supposed to, said they were going to make sure he never talked." Her voice cracked. I ran and left him, and now they're going to kill him, and it's my fault." Marcus's blood went cold. This wasn't a domestic dispute or a custody battle. This was a kidnapping, a professional one from the sound of it, cartel maybe, or organized crime. The police were there but weren't moving. That meant negotiations, which meant time, which meant Tyler might already be dead by the time they got their act together. "What's your name, kid?" "Victoria." "Victoria, I need you to tell me exactly what you saw. Every detail. Can you do that?" She nodded, swallowing her tears. "Good girl. Now talk." The story came out in fragments. Tyler was 9. Victoria was 7. They walked home from school together every day. Same route, same time, past the same buildings. Yesterday they had taken a shortcut, through an alley they weren't supposed to use, and they had seen something. 3 men, a 4th man on his knees, a gun. A sound like a car backfiring. Tyler had gasped. One of the men had turned. They ran, made it home, told their mother, who told them to stay inside, and called the police. The police came, took a statement, said they would look into it. That was yesterday. Today the men found them. They were grabbed on the way to school, right off the sidewalk, in broad daylight. Victoria managed to slip away when one of the men's grip loosened. Tyler wasn't so lucky. "He told me to run," Victoria whispered. "He pushed me and said, 'Run and don't look back.' So I did. I ran until I found the police, but they just—" She looked at Marcus with devastation in her eyes. "They just stood there. They said they were working on it, that negotiations take time, that I should wait with the other kids." Other kids? There were other kids? "There are more children in that building." "I don't know. Maybe. It's an apartment building. People live there." Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. Cartel hit, witness elimination, hostage situation with potential civilian collateral. Police paralyzed by protocol and probably politics. Certain cartels had connections, had leverage, had ways of making law enforcement very careful about how they operated. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a powder keg, and Marcus was about to light a match. He pulled out his phone. "Bear, what's up?" The voice on the other end was Diesel, his president. "Got a situation. Kid being held hostage. 4th floor, building on Ashland. Blue door. Cartel connection from what I can tell. Police are on scene, but not moving. And this involves us how?" Marcus looked at Victoria. At this tiny girl who had run through traffic to beg a stranger for help because she asked. Silence. "You know what you're stepping into?" "Yeah. And you want backup?" "I want brothers, as many as can get here in 15 minutes. Another silence, then, "Stay put. Cavalry's coming." Marcus hung up and turned to Victoria. "Listen to me very carefully. My friends are coming. We're going to get your brother, but I need you to stay here. Stay hidden. Can you do that? I want to help. You already did. You found me. Now let me do my part." Victoria stared at him with those huge, terrified eyes. "You're going to save him. You promise?" Marcus had learned long ago not to make promises he couldn't keep. The world was cruel. Things went wrong. People died despite best intentions. But looking at this little girl, he couldn't help himself. "I promise." The bikes arrived in 12 minutes. 11 Hell's Angels, roaring down Ashland like the wrath of God. They parked in a loose formation around the building's entrance, engines cutting off in sequence. Marcus met them in the street. "What do we know?" Diesel asked. 9-year-old kid, 4th floor. 3 hostage takers, armed. Cartel connected. These are the guys who've been making noise in the Western District. Police have the building surrounded, but they're not breaching. Why not? My guess? Someone made a call, someone high up who doesn't want this to turn into a shootout that exposes connections nobody wants exposed. Diesel's jaw tightened. So the kid gets sacrificed for politics. Not if we have anything to say about it. Bear, this is serious heat. We go in there guns blazing against cartel soldiers? That's a war. Then it's a war. Marcus turned to face his brothers. "I'm not asking anyone to follow me. This isn't club business. But there's a kid up there who's going to die if someone doesn't act. I'm acting. Anyone who wants to stand with me, I'd be grateful. Anyone who doesn't, no judgment." Silence. Then Hammer stepped forward. "I didn't join this club to let kids die." Ghost followed. "Same." One by one, every brother moved to stand beside Marcus. Diesel shook his head slowly. Then he smiled. "All right then, let's go save a kid." Ooh, the police didn't know what to make of them. 12 Hell's Angels, walking toward a barricaded building like they owned the street. The officer in charge, a captain named Reeves, stepped forward with his hand raised. "Stop right there. This is a police operation. You can't—" "You've been operating for 2 hours," Marcus cut him off. "There's a 9-year-old boy up there. What exactly have you accomplished?" Reeves's face went red. "We're in active negotiations." "Negotiations that are going nowhere because someone told you to stall." Marcus stepped closer. "I know how this works, Captain. Someone made a call. Someone connected. And now you're standing here with your thumb up your ass while a kid waits to die. That's not— Let me make this simple." Marcus's voice dropped to something cold and final. "We're going in. You can try to stop us, arrest 12 Hell's Angels on camera while a child is being held hostage. See how that plays on the evening news. Or you can step aside and let us do what you won't." Reeves stared at him, at the wall of leather and muscle behind him. at the phones already recording from every direction. He stepped aside. If this goes wrong, then it goes wrong, but at least something will have happened. Marcus turned to his brothers. Hammer, Ghost, take the fire escape. Spider, Bones, find a back entrance. Everyone else, we go through the front. No guns unless they shoot first. We're here to save a kid, not start a massacre. And if they don't give him up. Marcus's expression was granite. Then we take him. The fourth-floor hallway was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus could feel the tension bleeding through the walls. Somewhere in one of these apartments, 3 armed men were holding a terrified child. Door number 4C. That's what Victoria had said. The blue door with the crack in the paint. Marcus stood to one side, Diesel to the other. Behind them, 8 brothers waited in silence. 1 breath, 2. Marcus knocked, shuffling inside, whispered voices. Then a man's face appeared in the gap of a chain-locked door. The hell do you want? You've got something that doesn't belong to you. I don't know what you're talking about. Tyler, 9 years old, brown hair, probably crying right now. Marcus's voice was ice. Let him go. The man's eyes flickered, fear quickly hidden. You're making a mistake, friend. You don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. The question is, do you know who you're dealing with? The chain rattled. Then the door opened wider, and Marcus saw the gun. He moved before thinking. His hand closed around the barrel, forcing it up. The shot went wild, punching into the ceiling. Diesel hit the door like a battering ram, snapping the chain. Inside, chaos. 3 men, 1 kid, bound to a chair, eyes huge with terror. Tyler. The next 30 seconds were violence, controlled, precise, overwhelming. 3 cartel soldiers against 12 Hell's Angels wasn't a fight. It was a reckoning. When it was over, all 3 men were on the ground, zip-tied, bleeding, alive, barely. Marcus cut Tyler's bonds with his pocket knife. You okay, kid? Tyler couldn't speak. He was shaking so badly his teeth were chattering. Your sister sent me. Victoria. She's outside. She's safe. Marcus lifted the boy into his arms. You're safe too, it's over. Tyler burst into tears and buried his face in Marcus's shoulder. They walked out the front door. 12 bikers, 1 child, past the stunned police, past the recording phones, past the crowd that had gathered to watch. Victoria broke through the barricade before anyone could stop her. Tyler! Tyler! Marcus set the boy down. The siblings crashed together, holding each other like they'd never let go. You came back, Tyler sobbed. You came back for me. I promised I would. Victoria looked up at Marcus, with tears streaming down her face. He helped. The motorcycle man helped. Tyler looked at this massive, terrifying stranger who had saved his life. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. Marcus didn't know what to say. 30 years of violence, of crime, of being the monster in other people's stories. And now 2 children were looking at him like he was something precious, something good. Take care of each other, he finally managed. Then he turned and walked back to his brothers. Behind him, the city was waking up to what had just happened. Phones were uploading. News vans were arriving. The story was already spreading. 12 Hell's Angels, 1 kidnapped child, a rescue that happened while police stood by. The questions would come later, the investigations, the consequences. But right now, in this moment, none of that mattered. A little girl had asked a stranger for help, and the stranger had said yes. The story exploded. By nightfall, every news station in Chicago was running the footage. Cell phone videos from a dozen angles, all showing the same impossible scene. 12 Hell's Angels walking out of a building with a rescued child while police stood frozen behind barricades. Biker gang rescues kidnapped boy as cops watch. Hell's Angels heroes, Chicago stunned by hostage rescue. Where were the police? Questions mount after vigilante rescue. The headlines wrote themselves. Captain Reeves held a press conference that night. He stumbled through explanations about protocols, negotiations, officer safety. He never once said the word cartel, never mentioned the phone calls that had come from downtown, ordering him to stall. But people weren't stupid. The questions started immediately. Why had police waited 2 hours? Who had ordered the stand down? What connections did the kidnappers have that made law enforcement so careful? The mayor promised an investigation. The police commissioner promised transparency. Everyone promised things would be different. Marcus watched it all from the clubhouse, surrounded by his brothers. "We're going to catch heat for this," Diesel said. "The department's embarrassed. They'll want someone to blame. Let them come." Marcus didn't care about heat. He cared about a 9-year-old boy who was alive because they had acted. "I'm serious, Bear. This could bring the feds. RICO, racketeering, whatever they can make stick. Then it brings the feds. We did the right thing. I'll take whatever comes." Diesel studied him. "What happened out there? That little girl. You didn't even hesitate." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "She looked at me like I could save her brother, like I was her only hope." He shook his head. "Nobody's ever looked at me like that. Not once in my whole life. I couldn't let her down. So we risked everything for a stranger's faith." "Yeah." Marcus met his president's eyes. "And I'd do it again." The investigation started the next morning. Not into the bikers, into the police department. A whistleblower came forward within 48 hours. A detective named Sarah Chen, who had been at the scene, who had heard the orders come down to wait, to stall, to let the situation resolve itself. "Resolve itself," she told reporters, her voice shaking with anger. "That's what they called leaving a child to die. Because someone made a phone call, someone with enough power to make a police captain forget his oath." The phone call was traced to a city councilman named Robert Hayes. Hayes had connections to certain business interests in the Western District, interests that didn't appreciate witnesses. Hayes was arrested on a Thursday morning. The footage of him being led out in handcuffs played on every channel, but it didn't stop there. The 3 men Marcus and his brothers had subdued weren't just cartel soldiers. They were connected to a network that stretched across the city. Drugs, guns, human trafficking. And they had been protected by people in power for years. The FBI got involved, then the DEA, then the Department of Justice. Within a month, 47 people were arrested. Police officers, city officials, businessmen. A web of corruption that had strangled Chicago for a decade, finally exposed. All because a 7-year-old girl ran into traffic and grabbed a stranger's jacket. Victoria and Tyler's mother was named Angela. She had spent the worst hours of her life watching police do nothing while her son was held at gunpoint. She had screamed, begged, threatened. Nothing worked. Then her daughter disappeared. Angela had been searching frantically when the bikers emerged with Tyler. When she saw her children, both of them alive, holding each other, she collapsed. Marcus found her a week later. She had called the clubhouse, asked to meet. He didn't know what to expect. She met him at a coffee shop, alone, nervous. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "I don't know if there are words for what you did. You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You saved my son's life. You gave me back my children." Her voice cracked. "The police. They were going to let him die. I saw it in their eyes. They were going to let my baby die to protect someone's secrets." "I know. How do you live with that, knowing the people who are supposed to protect you will sacrifice your children for politics?" Marcus didn't have a good answer. He had learned long ago that the world was cruel, that power corrupted, that the badge didn't always mean justice. "You don't live with it," he said finally. "You change it. Or you find people who will." Angela wiped her eyes. "Victoria talks about you constantly. The motorcycle man who saved Tyler. She drew a picture of you. It's on our fridge. She's a brave kid. What she did, running for help, not giving up when the police failed her, that's not normal for a 7-year-old. That's something special. She gets it from her father. He died 3 years ago. Cancer." Angela smiled sadly. "He was a firefighter, ran into burning buildings for strangers. Victoria worshipped him. Sounds like a good man." "He was, and I think," she hesitated, "I think he would have liked you, despite everything, because you did what he would have done. You helped when nobody else would." Marcus didn't know what to say. He had spent his whole adult life being the villain in other people's stories, the criminal, the thug, the man mothers warned their children about. Now a widow was telling him her dead hero husband would have approved of him. It was more than he could process. "How are the kids?" he asked, changing the subject. "Healing, slowly. Tyler has nightmares. Victoria sleeps in his room now. Won't leave his side." Angela paused. "They're in therapy, both of them. It's helping, I think. But some wounds don't heal fast." "No, they don't. Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Why did you do it, really? You didn't know us. You had no obligation. You could have ignored Victoria and nobody would have blamed you." Marcus thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing 100 times over the past week. "Because she asked," he said finally. "That's all. She looked at me like I could help and she asked. I couldn't say no." "That's it? That's the whole reason? Sometimes that's enough. Someone needs help. You can give it, so you do." He shrugged. "The world would be better if more people thought that way." Angela reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "from the bottom of my heart. Thank you." The trials took 8 months. Marcus testified 3 times, against the kidnappers, against Councilman Hayes, against a police lieutenant who had been on the cartel's payroll for years. Each time, he told the same story: Victoria running into traffic, the desperation in her voice, the decision to act when nobody else would. The defense attorneys tried to paint him as a criminal, a vigilante, a thug who had no business interfering with police operations. It didn't work. The jury saw the footage. They saw a man carrying a child to safety while cops stood behind barricades. The verdict was guilty, every time. When it was over, the lead prosecutor, a woman named Diana Reyes, who had built her career on this case, found Marcus in the hallway. "You know you're the reason this happened," she said. "All of it. The arrests, the convictions, the cleanup of the department. None of it would have started without you. I didn't do it alone. My brothers, your brothers followed you. You made the call. You walked into that building." She smiled. "I've put away a lot of bad guys in my career, but this is the first time a biker gang helped me do it. We're not a gang." I know. She handed him a card. "If you ever need anything, legal help, a reference, whatever, call me. You've earned it." Marcus pocketed the card. "Thanks. One more thing." Diana hesitated. "The family, Angela and the kids, they've been asking about you. They want to see you. Say a proper thank you. I've been keeping my distance. Didn't want to. I don't know. Complicate things. I think you should go. Those kids need to know that heroes exist, even unlikely ones." The reunion happened on a Sunday afternoon. Angela's house was small, but warm. Photos covered every surface. Victoria and Tyler at various ages. Angela with a man Marcus assumed was her late husband. Family gatherings filled with laughter. Tyler opened the door. He was different now, less fragile. Still thin, still quiet, but there was steel in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "You came. Your mom invited me." "I know. I asked her to." Tyler stepped back. "Come in." The living room was comfortable. Angela emerged from the kitchen with coffee. Victoria appeared from nowhere and launched herself at Marcus like a small missile. "You're here! You're really here!" Marcus caught her, surprised by the force of her hug. "Easy, kid. You're going to knock me over." "I don't care." She pulled back, grinning. "I told everyone at school about you. My teacher didn't believe me until she saw the news. Now everyone thinks I'm cool. You were always cool. You're the one who ran for help, but you're the one who came." The afternoon passed in conversation. Tyler showed Marcus his room. He was into model cars now, building them from kits, finding peace in the precision of small parts and careful assembly. Victoria showed him her drawings, an entire notebook filled with pictures of motorcycles and leather jackets, and a large figure she called the Hero Man. "That's you," she explained. "See? I drew your beard and everything." Marcus studied the crude drawing. He had been drawn before, by police artists mostly, after various incidents, but never by a child, never with crayons and love and gratitude. "It's beautiful," he said. "Can I keep it?" Victoria's face lit up. Really? Really, I'll put it somewhere special. She tore out the page and handed it to him ceremoniously. Now you'll remember us forever. Kid, I was never going to forget you. 1 year later, Marcus stood at the edge of a cemetery, looking at a gravestone. David Chen, 1978, 2021, beloved husband and father. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway, Angela had told him the inscription. David's favorite quote, the words he had lived by. Marcus had never met the man, but he felt like he knew him, through Victoria's stories, through Tyler's quiet admiration, through Angela's memories shared over coffee in her small kitchen. David Chen had been a hero, the real kind. The kind who ran into burning buildings and never asked for anything in return. Marcus had spent his whole life being the opposite, taking what he wanted, hurting people who got in his way, building a reputation that made mothers pull their children close when he walked by. But one moment had changed everything. One desperate girl, one impossible request, one decision to say yes instead of walking away. I don't know if you can hear me, Marcus said to the gravestone, but I wanted you to know your kids are okay. They're strong, like you, I think. The wind rustled through the trees. No answer, of course, just silence and sunlight and the distant sound of traffic. Angela says you would have liked me. I don't know about that. I'm not a good man, not like you were, but I'm trying to be better. He paused. Your daughter taught me that. That little girl who ran into traffic to save her brother. She showed me what courage really looks like. He placed a single flower on the grave. Then he turned and walked away. The clubhouse was quiet when he returned. Most of the brothers were out. Runs, jobs, lives that continued despite everything that had happened. Only Diesel remained, nursing a beer at the bar. Where you been? Visiting a friend. Didn't know you had friends outside the club. I didn't, until recently. Marcus grabbed a beer and sat beside his president. Things are changing, D. I can feel it. Good changing or bad changing? Don't know yet, but different. He took a long drink. That kid, Tyler, he wants to be a cop when he grows up. A good one, he says, the kind that actually helps people. Because of what happened to him. Because of what didn't happen. He saw the system fail, saw the people who were supposed to protect him stand by and do nothing. And instead of breaking him, it made him want to fix it. Marcus shook his head. 9 years old, and he already has more integrity than half the adults I know. And the girl, Victoria, she wants to be a teacher. Says she wants to help kids who are scared, the way she was scared, give them hope. Diesel smiled. Good kids. The best. And they're going to do amazing things because someone showed them that help can come from anywhere, that strangers can become heroes, that giving up is never the only option. Someone being you. Marcus looked at his beer. I just answered when she asked. That's all I did. That's everything, brother. That's absolutely everything. Epilogue. 5 years later. Victoria was 12 now. She stood on a stage in front of 300 people, wearing her best dress, trying not to shake. The award ceremony was for Young Heroes of Chicago, an annual event recognizing children who had shown extraordinary courage. Victoria had been nominated for founding a peer support group at her school, helping kids who were dealing with trauma. When I was 7 years old, she said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong, my brother was kidnapped. The audience went silent. The police couldn't help us, or wouldn't help us. We later learned there was corruption involved. I was terrified. I thought Tyler was gonna die, so I did something crazy. I ran into traffic and grabbed the first person I saw who looked like they could actually do something. She paused. That person was a Hell's Angel named Marcus, a biker, a man most people would cross the street to avoid. But he didn't ignore me. He didn't tell me to find someone else. He looked me in the eyes and said, show me where. And then he saved my brother's life. Victoria looked out at the audience, at her mother crying in the front row, at Tyler, now 14, giving her a thumbs up, at Marcus standing in the back, trying to look like he belonged at a fancy awards ceremony. I learned something that day, something I've tried to live by ever since. Heroes don't always look the way we expect. Help can come from the strangest places. And courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and acting anyway. She raised her award. I dedicate this to Marcus Sullivan and the brothers who rode with him. Thank you for teaching me that anyone can be a hero. All they have to do is answer when someone asks for help. The applause was thunderous. In the back of the room, Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Diesel elbowed him. You crying, Bear? Shut up. The great Marcus Sullivan, brought down by a 12-year-old girl. I said shut up, but he was smiling. They both were. After the ceremony, Victoria found him in the crowd. You came. You invited me. I didn't know if you would. You've been busy. Never too busy for you, kid. Marcus looked at her. This young woman who had been a desperate child just 5 years ago. You did good up there. Your dad would be proud. Victoria's eyes glistened. You think so? I know so. You're exactly the kind of person he would have wanted you to be. She hugged him. Not the frantic grip of a terrified 7-year-old, but the warm embrace of family. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Thank you, Marcus replied, for reminding me why I'm here. They stood there in the crowded reception hall, surrounded by strangers and noise and life, a little girl who had learned that heroes come in all forms, and a man who had learned that redemption was always possible, all because someone had asked for help, and someone had answered. The end.